This week on Capitol Report.
The bill passed.
After 118 days, the state budget stalemate is finally over.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
A bipartisan effort gets the job done.
There was bumps in the road. We all still believed in each other in the process.
The things that are in this budget that we got and the things we stopped are unprecedented.
And the veto-proof deal is made with Governor Malloy on the outside, looking in.
You look lost.
I do?
Also, are Connecticut's high earners making a run for the borders?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Plus, a Halloween candy crackdown.
If I see no candy, you are in big trouble, young lady.
Taste the rainbow. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutching, and we are so glad that you are spending a little bit of your Sunday morning with us in the panel as we kick around the world of Connecticut politics alongside 1199 SCIU Communications Director Jen Schneider in her Halloween finery.
Thank you.
Roy Occhio-Grosso, Managing Director for Global Strategies Group. Jody Latina, also in kind of purple. You know?
The girls are feeling cheerful.
There you go. Chief of Staff to the Written Mayor Aaron Stewart, and the big dog is with us in the house. Chris Healy,
not feeling cheerful.
Former GOP State Party Chairman. Guys, let's get into it. Nearly after 4 months of will they or won't they, both the Senate and the House came together to pass that bipartisan agreement. The Senate went into the wee hours of the morning last Thursday to get it done. Watch this.
I think the discussions we've had in our budget negotiations were not numbers, they were policy, they were direction, they were what do we think as leaders we want this state to look like. Get your party political hats off, because people are tired of that.
It validates the work that all the leaders have done working together in that House caucus room over the last several weeks and hashing out so many issues, trying to come to a consensus, working in good faith, recognizing that everyone else in the room was working in good faith.
Handshakes and the backslapping continued Thursday afternoon when the House passed the deal. And once again, guys, you know, all about love, working together. Watch this.
In the beginning, I said to my caucus, 86% of the public on a poll that was well known throughout the state wanted us to act together, and we did. There was bumps in the road. We all still believed in each other in the process, and we believed in the issues that we stand up for. And we did compromise in areas, but overall, I think it's a good budget that'll move Connecticut forward.
And I would say this, my goal is not to be bipartisan. My goal is to get the best budget for the state of Connecticut. Not just fixing a problem for today, but fixing the state down the road, giving people hope.
So guys, I hope there's as much love at this table today as there was in the legislature. So what took them so long? If they passed it by 126-23 in the House and 33 in the Senate, what happened?
Well, Democrats had to give up a bunch of stuff that was really important to them, I think even to their democratic values. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that was important to labor and working people in a little bit, but I think that just coming together and having a compromise, and Republicans seem like they've really come out with a lot of things they were fighting for, and not so much on the Democratic side.
Healy's feeling the love over there from the Republicans.
Yes, I'm a loving person.
No one believes that at home, by the way.
Well, it was a good night for the Republicans in the sense that they got some things done that we've long fought for. And that had to do with voting on contracts, getting rid of this prevailing wage nonsense that adds needless costs, or at least raising the cap on it. A lot of good things in there for the long term, and they're on the books. So now they have to be repealed by affirmative votes, which makes it more difficult. There are a lot of things Republicans didn't like. They let a lot of Republicans out there in the rank and file that understandably thought this was a sellout. I think that's short-sighted. You can't let the House burn completely down. You got to get in there and save what's left, and then build on it when we get into the majority in a year.
Roy, there was a little glitch in there when it came to the hospital tax. Len Fasano says, "Don't worry about it. We got this covered." The governor came back and said, "We're not quite sure about that." How'd that happen?
Yeah, very comforting. Len got that cover from Senator Fasano, I should say. Got that cover from a lawyer for the hospital. So, I mean, after that, did he call the Fox and ask the Fox what he thought about security at the hen house? Ridiculous. It's potentially a billion-dollar problem. And it's a real problem that needs to be addressed.
Well, I think real quickly, the hospitals and the governor have been at it hammer and tong for almost, what, 2 or 3 years. They're in a court case together. Hospitals are vital parts, as we all know, of our state. aside from the health care, they're huge job creators. I don't think the hospitals would agree to have themselves taxed, to have that money thrown back into the state and then re-given if they didn't have their numbers lined up. So the idea that the governor was trying to scare the legislature to say some deadline is passed, I don't see the I don't see the facts.
That's right. Let's get Jody here for a second. Jody, as someone who helps run a moderate-sized town in Connecticut, New Britain, is this budget good or bad for cities and towns?
It gives stability, and that's what everyone was looking for, because now municipalities are going into their own budget seasons, and they need to know how to plan ahead. There is something dire in all of this that no one has been talking about yet, and that is the one-shots. $1 billion worth of one-shots. So this is not over by a long shot.
The budget will be out of balance within a month.
Before I get to the governor who was absent in this,
I agree with Roy on that.
There was some concern from the union. We talked last week that you thought the unions were going to be held harmless. Well, guess what? That didn't happen.
I didn't quite say that.
Including your union.
You might have said that. Okay. I didn't say that. But one of the shocking things that come out of this budget was that 8,500 home health care workers, these are people who provide in-home services to people who are disabled or who are elderly, so they don't have to go to a nursing home. They had a contract with the state to raise their wages to a $15 minimum wage, provide them with workers' compensation, which they're probably the only health care workers that currently don't have that, and that's not going to be funded in this budget. And what's even more disturbing is that in the document that Republicans released touting all the accomplishments that they had, they were celebrating the fact they were able to block the funding for these workers who currently pretty much live in poverty paycheck to paycheck.
Give Chris a quick hit on that.
Well, it all comes back to the CBAC vote. I mean, let's face it.
These aren't state workers.
We're talking about available money to pay bills. And when every Democrat, save one, voted for that CBAC contract, they locked the state in for another...
They saved money through that deal. Chris, you keep saying that every week, and it makes zero sense. They saved money through that deal.
I will concede there are some minuscule savings.
$25 million is not minuscule. That's actually a ton of money.
But that does not...
And Republicans
that shouldn't allow you to say you cannot hire you can't terminate or reorganize your workforce for 10 years or 4 years.
That has nothing to do with this.
But it does have everything to do with it. Come on.
It locks us in, and it gives a core group of people raises when the majority of people are struggling.
Okay. Listen,
I feel bad for those workers. They shouldn't have had that promise taken away, but that's the reality now because there's no money.
Republicans pushed for lowering the estate tax, and that's at the cost.
That's good.
But that's at the cost of these workers having to live in poverty, making $10 an hour.
This is not the last we're going to talk about this, but let's get to the elephant in the room. Remember when Healy last week said Malloy's on like a park bench feeding squirrels, and that he was completely shut out of this veto-proof deal? House Majority Minority Themis Claire has proved insight as to why this happened. Watch this.
He said time after time, I am happy to meet with you all as many times as you'd like. If you'd like to meet with me individually, I'm happy to do that. If you would like to meet on your own, that's also fine. Whatever you think is the best way to move this forward. And everybody has a different personality and everybody has a different way of leading. From my perspective, we put forth our budget. We believe that should have been signed, and we believed it should have been overridden. But the reality is where we were, and the difference was draconian cuts by executive order or sit down and work a budget together. And that is leading. Leading is sometimes digging your heels in and saying, we're not going to change, we're not going to move, we believe so strongly in this. Leading is also deciding. When you have to sit in a room and figure out if you can get enough in a document that you believe moves the state forward, and that's what we all did.
And earlier in the week, Jen Schneider, Themis Claire said the governor acted like a baby and said, quote, there is no place for a baby leading the state. So unfortunately, we, the Republicans in the legislature, had to take over. That's pretty harsh words, huh? A baby?
And she's talking about leading, and then she starts name-calling. But also, I think that you would never see Republicans, if they had the majority and they had a Republican governor, not let a Republican governor into negotiations for a budget. And I think it's really disgraceful that Democrats didn't allow Malloy into this negotiation. There were a lot of things
as we said last week, 10 years ago, the Democrats in the House had a 107.
Didn't just force out the executive chamber on this, who has veto power. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense, and Democrats really just walked away from a lot of their values. They cut Medicaid. People are being thrown off of Husky.
Healy, take the last word.
Well, I just, for all those Democratic legislators that got the ire of Dan Malloy. I mean, I just hope they don't have any business with the state of Connecticut for the next,
But
14
Republicans
months.
lock arms.
It's called election. They're distancing themselves.
Guys, not the end of this one. All this will be debated again next February, 3 short months away, when the 2018 session opens and the governor proposes revisions for the second year of the biennium. That's legal speak. Don't go away.